there's a quote out there, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. So it depends on the urgency of the matter. Maybe you can move slightly faster in a proverbial silo, but that is not how you go far and ensure quality over the long run.
On this episode of Embedded Insiders, Rich is joined by Brandon Hansen, COO and CFO of Sealevel Systems, and a sponsored segment to discuss breaking down silos in design teams and the importance of looking at the big picture. Next, Rich and Jerry Chen, founder and CEO of Upbeat Technology, discuss how the company is taking a different approach to its RISC-V offering by leveraging low power levels and applications like always-on IoT, wearables, edge AI sensors, and more. But first, Ken and Rich recap their recent trip to Anaheim, California for Embedded World North America 2025.
Hello, friends, engineers, and everyone else out there listening, whoever you may be. Welcome to the Embedded Insiders podcast. I'm Ken Briota, editor-in-chief, and I am joined today, I'm very excited to say, by Rich Nass, our editor-at-large and former fearless leader. Hey, Rich, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
It's great to have you back. And, of course, we are also joined by Tiara, our managing editor, who is the full power and control behind the excellent podcast that you get every week.
Absolutely. I concur with that one.
I guess today we're going to talk about Embedded World North America, which was a little more than a week ago now. And
boy, it seems like it was a long time ago. Really?
Yeah, it really does. Like, I just had to think about it. I was like, I've only been back a week.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, it was a busy show. Like, honestly, I feel like I didn't stop that whole week, just running around, meeting with folks, doing events and things like that. I mean, how did it feel for you?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I did cut it a little shorter than, I was going to say when we're in Nuremberg, but I tell people all the time, please don't compare it to Nuremberg. It's not fair. It's different. So I'm going to stop doing that. So I spent 2 and a little bit days at the show, all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday. And then I was there Thursday morning for a little while and then I bugged out. But I also was very busy. It was meeting after meeting after meeting, although I did run a panel and that took a couple of hours, and we ran our build your own embedded systems classes at the show as well. And that took a couple of hours out of my schedule.
Yeah, I had time to go to neither of those. How did they go?
The panel was really good. One of the things that I loved about it was that about halfway through, we got the panelists arguing with each other,
nice.
which is always interesting. So, one of the panelists was sort of given the company line and not really being forthcoming, and another panelist called him out on it. So it was the topic was security. So we had a software guy, a system level guy, and a chip level guy, and it went really well. And then the build your own classes, for me, that's always a big hit. We bring people in there and we give everybody a board, we give them tons of software, we give them a few hours of training, and they leave with this board and their system partially built. Best program that I've been involved with. We've been doing it for maybe 3 years now at all the embedded worlds, both in Nuremberg and here in the States. Great program.
Yeah, I hear nothing but good things about it. I love it. I think it's great to give folks the sort of hands-on opportunity to play with these boards. For me, much like you, it was constant meetings and doing video, and I was able to do a bunch of like good editorial coverage and stuff, which is always nice from the show floor. Our dev zone was a hit again. We had a lot of great activity happening there, some really cool boards. Folks listening can find videos on those on YouTube. They're going to start coming out as part of our Dev Kit Weekly series, but you can get a little preview on the in case you missed it, episode from the show week. I did a little walkthrough of the boards from the Dev Zone if you want to take a look at those in brief. But I mean, it behooves us as journalists to talk a little bit about the scuttlebutt and the stuff around the show. I mean, there was a little bit of negative talk around the show floor, for sure. I believe the Mesa folks said that the floor was 30% larger than the previous year in Austin, which is, you're right. The only fair comparison is to itself the previous year, not to Nuremberg. That's a 25 true. Or 30-year-old show. You can't really compare the two. So a little bit bigger than the previous year, but, and this is anecdata, to me, the booths themselves were on average smaller. I didn't see any of the really big booths. Like there were a couple of decent footprint ones, but nothing really big. And a lot of companies had gone to a smaller footprint. So, you know, I don't know what that says about the show, but what were you hearing?
Well, it also suffered from the typical Southern California disease, if that's the right word, where people showed up late and they left early. I always liken it to the Dodgers games where it doesn't fill up till the second inning, and by the top of the eighth, it's pretty empty. And we had a lot of that where by the show opened at 9, I think, and it was pretty slow. But at 11 o'clock, there was a lot of people out there on the floor. And afterwards, a lot of people have asked me what I thought of the show, and I'll tell you, and I'll tell the audience what I've been telling everybody. It was okay. It was definitely not bad. It was not great. It was somewhere in the middle there, but it was certainly more than enough to warrant doing it again next year. So I'm looking forward to, and we're already planning for next year.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think that it's important to keep in mind that this is a second year show, and a second year show with what was it, about 120 booths in the exhibit hall floor and 2 full days of conference content is nothing to shake a stick at. Now, that conference, the average room, I think, was, from what I saw, again, anecdata, around 25 or 30 people in the average room. Is that about what you had for your session?
We had about 50 in our panel, but it was probably a higher profile event than some of the other stuff. But you know, you say it's a second year show, and I tell people it's really not, because they moved locations. For the most part, the attendees are not coming from Austin or from some other place. They're coming from the local region. So I think it's only fair to say this is a first year event.
Yeah, although I think that it behooves the organization, not that they're asking me, to do a better job of encouraging travel to the show from around North America. If they're going to be a North America show based in California, they should probably be working on encouraging travel to it. You know, Southern California is not where most of the embedded companies are headquartered, so you want to get people to travel there.
But it was literally across the street from Disneyland.
It absolutely was. And I think that should feature in their marketing as well. You know, the most magical embedded show on earth.
There you go.
I'm not sure you could get away with that without getting sued by the mouse, but I'm no lawyer.
But the other thing about this show that I noticed that it was more than usual. The hallway conversations were much better than almost any other show that I've been at. The unscheduled, just bumping into people randomly. I don't know if it's because they didn't know I was going or I didn't know they were going, but there was a lot of that. And those are so valuable. The 5 minutes just meeting somebody randomly.
I agree. I mean, I think most people will say that the best conversations they have are the accidental ones that they get in the aisles or whatever. And that does seem to prove true over and over again.
And then the shout out to our best in show winners.
Oh yeah, we had a really good slate this time. I can't remember. I think we gave out 20 different best in show awards across a bunch of categories, and it was a really good slate of folks, for sure. Some good tech, interesting new stuff. You know, we had some good submissions. Obviously, we can only award to people who submit, but I think that we had some really good submissions. So we'll be doing best in show again as we ramp up now to go to Nuremberg. We've got some exciting new stuff that we're going to be doing at the show, so keep an eye out there, folks, for you folks out there listening, and hopefully we'll see a bunch of you in Germany and again next year in Anaheim for Embedded World North America. I know we'll be there, and we'll be doing a lot of content, a lot of meetings, a lot of interaction with folks. So
I'm also excited that they've accidentally, I don't know if that's the right word, moved up to September because of the World Cup. I think September is a better time frame anyway, but that's where they're going. So I'm happy about that one.
Yeah, I'm excited about that too. I think that's a good move. The trade show space is very busy in the autumn, I feel like, and so being a little bit earlier in it is probably for the best.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Well, I hope the folks out there listening hang around and catch the rest of the great interviews and segments coming up on the rest of the episode. And in the meantime, I've been Ken Briota. Thank you so much for joining us.
This next segment is sponsored by Sealevel Systems. Here's Rich and Brandon Hanson, the company's COO and CFO.
So one of the discussions we've been having around here, embedded computing design, is this issue of design teams that are siloed. And if you could see me, I'm doing air quotes around the word siloed, because we have teams that operate in these groups and they're missing things in the bigger picture. Sometimes that's actually okay because they're in the weeds doing what they need to do, but they do need to come up for air at some point to understand what the big mission is and to have a better understanding about what this means and why this is an issue. I thought we'd bring this to a higher level, and we wanted to talk to somebody who is not in one of these silos, who is actually managing teams and the whole company, which we Brandon Hanson, and he's the COO of Sealevel Systems. How you doing, Brandon?
Doing well. Thank you for having me.
So is what I'm saying actually accurate? Is are you seeing that from your customer's perspective? Are they falling into this, what's the word, trap, if that's the right word, of operating in silos? And if so, why is that bad?
We absolutely see it with customers that we deal with. And there was a point in time where we saw it in our own organization and have since righted the ship. But why it's bad? Any silos in an organization, no matter the size, is going to cause bottlenecks, delays in decision making, and other potential issues down the road when these teams don't have a shared goal.
Do you run into the problem where, and I can certainly see this happening, that people don't even realize they're in the silo? They're just doing their job.
That is absolutely the case.
So how do you get them to recognize that? And we know how engineers are, that they like to think they're really smart and they sort of know everything. So how do you get them to come up for air and look at the bigger picture?
They are very smart, and sometimes it is hard to get them to come up for air and look at the bigger picture. In our experience, what we've done, it might be a little easier than at multi-location companies because we are just one location, but we have huge collaborative meetings, for any new project, whether it's a C-level product or a custom product. So not only does engineering know the full scope of work, but everyone else that's going to be touching this product through the entire manufacturing process, all the way to the logistics of getting this product to the customer, everyone is on the same page. We all have the same shared ownership and can take pride in that product and getting that to the customer and make sure they're satisfied.
Now, why does that sound like it's so simple when in reality it's not?
In reality, it is very difficult.
Why is it hard?
Everyone just wants to focus on their duties, if you will, and they might not necessarily get paid for worrying about the full scope of a product or all of this collaboration. But we've found people really open up and are way more willing to collaborate when they do have that shared goal, or really can take pride in where this product might be going or what it might be doing for a customer.
Now, as the COO of your company, is it your job to sort of walk around and make sure that this does not happen within Sealevel Systems?
That might be one of the many jobs, but I do my best to empower all of the people on every team to act as they see fit. I really try to push the responsibility down to them and let them be able to make the decisions themselves.
And whose job is it to make sure that this doesn't happen with your customers? Because I could see that being a little more tenuous, because you, even as the COO, you can't walk into your customer and say, hey, you're doing this wrong.
That is true. And sometimes we have to have maybe somewhat difficult conversations with customers, but we always try to help them in any way possible and inform different teams at the customer what's going on, because they might not even be communicating that well together because they may be in a silo.
And is it news that's well received, or is this something that you have to talk to somebody at your own level? I mean, if you were to go into to talk to a bench level engineer and say, hey, you need to talk to this guy over on this team, is that not the right approach?
That is an approach. We've experienced everyone being appreciative of the news, maybe upset at their own team members or counterparts at their business because they weren't already told from them about some update or milestone in a project. But overall, it is welcomed information.
Okay. And what about the extreme when you do see this happen and you can't get somebody at the customer to admit that this is actually the case? You just walk away and say, I've done everything I can do?
Yeah, obviously we can't control the customer, but we try our absolute best to help in any form or fashion that we're able to.
Okay. What is the biggest issue that is faced when people are operating in these silos? What are the potential bad things that could happen?
Delivering a quality product on time is ultimately the end goal, and any silo kind of threatens that outcome.
Well, it's obvious that if you're operating in the silo, you're not seeing the big picture. But are there things like, for example, we often see that a ruggedized system is not rugged the way it's supposed to be, or they're not taking advantage of the latest operating system. They're not looking at open source. They're not looking at the best CPUs. Is there anything in particular that jumps out?
None of those, because on our end, we are helping or are making those decisions for the customer. So we like to make sure we're doing all of our homework and our R&D to make sure we're providing a product that's going to meet or exceed the statement of work.
Okay, well, that's an important point. You said that you're making these decisions on behalf of your customer. How do we ensure that you guys are not working in that silo when you're making these decisions on behalf of the customer?
Yes, from early on in any quotation or RFQ type process, our engineering team, our sales team, as well as the customer's engineering and procurement teams are going to have a communication about exactly what needs to be delivered and who's responsible for what. A lot of times we are designing and manufacturing a fully custom product for a customer, but there are occasions where there might be a semi-custom solution where the customer are providing some small piece of IP and we're combining that with our IP and making sure we can still meet that statement of work and deliver a quality product. So there are different scenarios.
Okay. Now, the discussion that I had with Earl Foster about a month ago was where we were talking about when you should be designing from scratch and when you should be using something that's off the shelf and when you should be using semi-custom. does this fit into when we talk about these silos? Do we have the same issues where we have this group of engineers, and no matter what they tell them, they want to design everything from scratch? Is that an issue as well?
Hopefully not internally. We don't really experience that here because we're gonna, leverage any and all IP that we have developed over 40 years. But if part of the decision-making process on the design side does require the customer's input, yes, there could be silos and it could delay or threaten the deliverable of a quality product in whatever timeline.
And I was referring to your customers, not so much within Sealevel Systems.
Yes, we do experience that from the customer end.
Okay, so let's spin this around. Are there ever instances where it's better to have these folks working in these silos where they're not disturbed by the outside forces?
That's a good question. There's a quote out there, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. So it depends on the urgency of the matter. Maybe you can move slightly faster in a proverbial silo, but that is not how you go far and ensure quality over the long run.
Okay. That sounds good to me. I'm sold. I know that for better or worse, these issues are in all walks of life. It isn't just on these engineering design teams. We see silos everywhere, no matter what the company, no matter what it is that people are doing. So, these things that we're talking about, I think that this is good for anything, not just design engineering teams. Well, I certainly appreciate you taking the time, Brandon, to join me here and to help educate the audience and hopefully to keep them out of their silos.
Yes, thank you for your time as well, Rich.
All right.
Now, here's Rich and Jerry Chen, founder and CEO of Upbeat Technology.
Good afternoon, or in the case of our guest today, it is good evening. My name is Rich Ness. I am with Embedded Computing Design, and my guest, who is in Taipei, is Jerry Chen. He is the founder and CEO of Upbeat Technology. How you doing, Jerry?
Good, very good. Thank you, Rich.
What's the weather like in Taipei these days?
For this week, actually, is rainy. Yeah, but the temperature is much better. Yeah, like
Okay.
a few weeks back, the temperature was like always above 30 Celsius degree. But this week,
Wow.
it's pretty nice. So in the
Okay.
20s. Yeah.
Good. Well, I'm based in Florida, and we've been having rain. It is playing havoc with my golf game, but I'm sure nobody cares about that, right? All right, so let's get into the technology here. We wanted you on as a guest because something crossed my desk about you guys doing low power RISC-V. Most of what I've seen to date has been very high. Well, I won't even say high power. At the data center level, people are pushing multiple cores, like in the hundreds and thousands of cores to drive data centers. And that seems to be the way most of the RISC-V is going. But you guys are coming at this from a completely different perspective. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but it's through a partnership with Sci-Fi. So let's start with the first part. Why do you think RISC-V is appropriate to do at these really low power levels? And define what we're talking about in terms of power levels.
Right. So, of course, at the beginning or before the project started, I thought about whether to go with the traditional ARM core, which is Cortex for the low power portable devices, and the other choice is obviously RISC-V CPU core. And in reality, I think I have to make a differentiation of my product, my SoC. So if I chose ARM core, then it's going to be no difference, in terms of the CPU core. It's going to be no difference between my great product and other people's, for example, ST Micro or MediaTek, in terms of the CPU performance. Yeah, and because I started my career at Intel for CPU pipeline design at actually that's a Merced, or later on it's a Itanium CPU. Yeah, so for me, I just want to have a good CPU core. It's bug free, and it has a very clean pipeline and a high performance. Yeah, for my product. So I don't want to if I use the word, if I may, cage. So if I use ARM core, I'm like staying in the ARM CPU core cage. I want to escape. I don't want to stay in that cage. That's why I chose RISC-V CPU core, because
But why the low power part of it? I mean, I get why you'd want to use RISC-V, and I certainly won't argue that. But why do you feel it's more appropriate at the lower power levels?
Right, that's a very good question. So it really depends on, because I came from a CPU core pipeline design. So it really depends on the implementation of the pipeline. Okay, so if we look at the ARM CPU core, it actually, currently I think it's the third generation of the instruction set. So if you want to support all the instructions, ARM core instructions for all the 3 generations, it's about 1,500 plus instruction you need to support. But for the RISC-V CPU, since it's new, so you only support like 100 instructions. So in terms of the instruction decoding, it's less. Yeah. So in terms of the gate count, it's less. So naturally, if you choose a RISC-V CPU core, it has less gate count. If we are talking about similar performance level, so that's one reason using RISC-V CPU core can have less power.
Okay. Where does Sci-Fi fit into this?
Yeah. So actually, I worked together with Sci-Fi starting back in 2017. Yeah, I was working on another CPU for a design service project, and back then, actually, Sci-Fi was sort of the only provider of the CPU core. And because a lot of the Sci-Fi guys at that time, they were from Intel. So I knew some folks at Sci-Fi who were also at Intel. Yeah, and so simple choice back then.
But why not do this yourself? Why do you need Sci-Fi?
Yeah, that's another great question. So because I was in the Intel CPU core pipeline team, so I know if you want to build a CPU pipeline bug free and with performance, for example, you need to have cache, and you need to have some forwarding, some just great feature to improve the performance. I would say it takes 200 engineers, yeah, and a few years to get the CPU pipeline core ready. Yeah, and the tape out currently, it costs a lot of money. We're talking about like the 10 millions and more, right, at the least. So I don't want to start from the CPU pipeline design and risk the tape out with the funding that I have. So that's why I chose to license.
Okay. So where are you in the timeline of your design? Have you taped out a CPU?
Oh yeah. So totally together, I tape out twice with Sci-Fi CPU core. Yeah, and both are great. I don't see any bugs from the CPU core that I licensed from Sci-Fi.
Okay. So tell me some of the specs of the CPU. Where are you in terms of performance and power?
Yeah, so when we compare different CPU cores, of course, we need to use the benchmarks. Yeah, for example, Drystone or core marks. Yeah, and from my understanding, core marks is easier to sort of you can have some manipulation of the code a little bit, so you can get different score. And Drystone is much more consistent. Yeah, so actually from our own measurement of the Drystone, for the E34 core, that's a 5-stage pipeline with instruction cache and the data. We call that just I-team or D-team. So tightly coupled memory. So we are able to actually measure the Drystone score more than 1.75 per megahertz. Yeah, so although Sci-Fi report that the benchmark score is 1.75, but we actually can run it at a higher score. And same thing for the smaller core that we license from Sci-Fi. That's an E21 2-stage pipeline. It also has the TIM, tightly coupled memory, and we were able to generate the score, benchmark score, or Drystone is close to 1.9. Although Sci-Fi they don't seem to believe that, but we would like to share the result with them. I mean, how we run it.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Lastly, one of the issues people often talk about with respect to RISC-V in general is the lack of development tools. Do you see that that's still a problem, or has that problem gone away?
It is always a problem, but I think for a embedded system, right? Embedded system, if the software is entirely controlled by the product company, that what I mean is, for example, the Garmin watch. Take that as an example. So for Garmin watch, they don't allow anyone other than the Garmin engineer to write any single line of code for the watch. So they don't need to care about the public code. Yeah. So they can have total control of this embedded system. So in that case, the application is something like this Garmin watch. So they can just use the RISC-V CPU core. Yeah.
Very good. Well, that sounds really interesting. I appreciate you taking the time, Jerry. You seem to have all the answers to my questions.
All right.
That was Jerry Chen. He is the founder and CEO of Upbeat Technology, and I am Rich Nass with Embedded Computing Design.
Thanks for listening to this edition of Embedded Insiders. For more daily news, videos, and podcasts, visit our website at embeddedcomputing.com.